Good morning, everybody. This is Philip Bain, the Managing Director of Smart Cities Council. Today, we are producing this webinar about how you can participate in the 2020 Readiness Challenge. So just quickly, we have a fairly long topic list, but you'll find that I'll race through this pretty quickly. We do want to get to the question sets and discuss how you can work on the questions, improve your score, etc. So we've been doing this for over 3 years, and what we've learned is that we need to scale down the amount of effort that cities need to participate. So you're only going to spend about 3 hours to complete the application, and basically you're going to learn through the process, and you're going to find that this is cities helping cities. It's no longer about why we should be smart, sustainable, resilient, compassionate, or inclusive. It's about how. This is not a competition, and from our perspective, every city that participates wins. So what you probably often hear as you attend conferences and workshops is that the Smart City journey is seen as a race for a connected lifestyle. You know, I want my city to have a connected lifestyle. I want my city to have economic development, that's jobs, revenue, tax revenue. We want more people coming into the city. We encourage startup competitions and different types of startup and innovation culture, but it's all about my city. There's often also this whole aspect of a race to get a top city ranking. You know, there are over 300 different city rankings in the world, and probably most of us never even get close to getting on the list, let alone in the top 10. But there's a huge competition around this. So from our perspective, this race is costing all of us a lot. 85% of carbon emissions come from cities. Over 5 million people move to cities every month. As many of you probably know, India itself is converting from being the world's largest rural democracy to the world's largest urban democracy. So these graphic, systematic changes of people coming into cities and changing the landscape. In some cases, yes, some cities become prosperous, but in a lot of cases, many cities do not. So I don't know about you, but I'm sort of out of breath at this point. I'm supposed to become smart, livable, workable, sustainable. Everybody tells me why, but they don't really show me how. And of course, what's happening for me? I'm in a city that's slow to change. Organizational inertia is deadly. I don't know how many people I've heard from cities that talk to me about having a day job that doesn't allow them to innovate or participate in project conceptualization or planning. It's very frustrating both for the city residents and the city people, the city management, who are often very well inclined to make a difference, but then hampered. And of course, what does some of this hampering? Some of the reasons are the reality of population. In the state that I live in Virginia, in the United States, we're constantly reminded about the fact that it's where the population is that sort of dictates which direction we're going in. And in democracies, this is very true. Another reality is the reality of separation. We have over 139 independent cities and counties in Virginia. We have 98 executive agencies and 25 different universities and boards. We've actually been working with the Commonwealth of Virginia to devise and develop a data sharing program between all these entities. It is difficult when people cannot use ubiquitous technology beyond their borders. So we have the reality of siloed operations. In many cities, you don't know what's going on in other departments. I've actually been in workshops where two people met each other and they actually worked on the same floor in a city office and had similar resources and similar needs, but weren't talking to each other. So it's not just cities, this is true of any organization, and we all know that this happens. Also, change is hard. Professor Cotter has pointed out that it could take you 2 years to change the organization for 300 people so that they were more innovative, cooperative, aimed towards purpose-driven projects. So given this, where we are at the Smart City Council is we've had a lot of experience in what we call capacity development, that is helping cities learn how to change and deal with changing technology. And what we find is that after many years of experience is that cities are more than willing to learn. They have websites, case studies, webinars. They love going to conferences. They get excited. They love receiving awards and rankings. But the fact of the matter is they're not converting this capacity or this knowledge that they acquire into action. I could give you a number of case examples in the United States alone. Another example that I learned this past fall was how long it takes for these new solutions to get to market. And in many cases in the developed world, it's 4 to 6 years before you actually have project completion. I was in a workshop in Asia, and I won't name the city, but it was in the ASEAN region, and they were telling me that it took them 13 years from the time of conceptualization to the time that they actually started deploying a rapid bus transit system. So the amount of time that it's taking to develop these projects is just too long. And given the fact that technology is constantly changing, the scope that you may have in year 3 will totally be out of sync and not available by year 6. And there'll be other solutions. And of course, what we're also finding, and if you're in a city, you see this, is that some companies just totally bypass the city itself, its procurement, its regulation, its planning process, and go straight to city residents. And of course, this causes a whole additional set of problems. So we've been there, we've done it, we've done workshops, we've done challenges, we've published case studies, we've published websites, we've done all of it. We have councils in India, Europe, and Australia, along with North America. In the United States or North America alone, we've had over 300 cities participate in the last 3 years in our Readiness Challenge. We've done over 60 workshops, and this is just North America. We've done about another 25 outside of North America. And you can see the many cities that have won, and of course this doesn't include, you double this number with the finalists. We've had cities apply year over year. One city was Montgomery, Alabama, that actually won in 2019, and they had applied 2 previous years. And so they were actually learning as they went through the process. We've actually had cities tell us as they look at the applications that, oh, we're not ready for this. And that in and of itself is knowledge that one can gain, because then one takes what you don't know and figures out what are the next steps to complete the application. So we think we really have to, we would suggest that we have to look at this differently. We've got to stop seeing this as a race, a competition. We also have to change the tools that we use to move knowledge to action. So we have to think differently. So where our Readiness Challenge from the Smart Cities Council is focused is in the planning and financing stage. This is the 30 to 40% of project planning that is the hardest. This is where cities have to find stakeholder engagement. They have to accurately describe their needs. They have to scope out solutions. So do I want public transport or do I want shared mobility? There are questions there that take a lot of work and a lot of time. And this is also where most knowledge resources and most workshops and webinars don't pay any attention. They'll talk about technology, how you can deploy it, but they don't talk about the first 3 to 5 steps that you would take to even determine whether that technology was what you needed. So we've really decided that we need to focus on this planning and then shortly the financing stage. We need to build city capacity and increase access to financing. So we really think the best way to do this, again, is not think about this as a race and that you have one smart city and then everybody else is either dumb or not smart. We really think you have to think of this as cities helping cities. You have to emphasize stakeholder engagement. you have to move from understanding why, and you have to start knowing how. And so therefore, the tools that you're provided have to be continuous, they have to be replicable, and you have to be able to collaborate. And that's where we provide Smart Cities Activator at no cost to cities, because it'll reduce the time, expense, and risk of planning projects, and it'll accelerate the scoping and eventually the financing of projects. So the Readiness Challenge benefits through each step of the process, and I will review these in a little more detail. You'll have a benefit that you achieve. If you apply an Activator Discover, not only will you learn as you review questions, you'll also see dashboards of what other cities are, how they're answering the same questions. It's anonymous, it's aggregated, nobody learns what a particular city has answered, but you will see what all cities have answered. When you move into Activator Plan, after you put in your projects, you'll be able to learn what's happening in your own city. I don't know about you, but I've actually talked to many city mayors and managers, and I've asked them, do you know all the projects in the planning stage in your city? And they'll laugh and they'll tell me, no, we don't. I don't even know, let alone where I live. They'll say, I don't know what Fairfax County or the 6 cities in the Fairfax County are doing, let alone what's happening in my own organization. So there's this lack of knowledge in and of itself within our cities. Then the question is, wouldn't it be great to know what's happening in cities elsewhere? So if I'm living in a county and I have 6 cities in that county, and by the way, San Diego has 22, the Phoenix region has about 18, and wouldn't it be great if we could see what other cities were doing? And that's what Activator Exchange is about. And finally, we push it to Activator Collaboration, where you can actually work with other cities in planning projects around common needs. So this is an example from 2019 of what a dashboard could look like. We aggregate anonymized data, but again, we're sharing this with all the participants. This is an example of what a city project dashboard could look like. So this is where you start planning your projects in Activator Plan, and you can start seeing what other departments or agencies within your city are doing. So if you're in the public planning agency, you could see what the Department of Transportation or the public safety, or maybe the courthouse or legal system. You could also see what your traffic management is doing. And this way, you start getting an idea about where you can collaborate and break those silos. Another feature of Activator, and again, I want to keep reinforcing this is open to all cities globally that participate in the challenge, is that it uses Google Translate so that you have multiple languages. This is Portuguese, you just saw the English version, but as you can see, it gives you an opportunity to work in multiple languages, because we all know that in 2nd and 3rd tier cities, most of the time the planning work is going to be done in the local language. This is Activator Exchange. This is the example of where city projects are published to a private directory that's only accessible to cities and council members. You can search by region, type of project, or enabling technology. And again, this is available in multiple languages. You can also, by hitting the arrow, get a deeper dive of what's happening in the city with that particular project. Now, no city is going to have to share, and this is totally voluntary, no city is going to have to share planning project information itself, but we do ask cities to share what we call top-line metadata, things like a brief description of the project, its phase, its focus area, an estimated cost, a possible tender date, all with an idea that if you're in another city somewhere in the world and you have a similar project, you can contact that city. So here, if you were, I live in Reston, Virginia, if I was interested in a circular economy project, I could reach out to the city of Toronto and say, hey, can I talk to you about this? Now, they don't have to reply, and I would never see the email address of who this goes to, but it does give me the opportunity to contact that project owner. Another aspect of Activator Exchange is I can learn more about the project. So here, there's a Seoul Metropolitan Government project. And by clicking on the link, I can go directly to the website of Seoul City, and I can see the background on this particular project. So this gives me an in-depth view of why the city planned the project, and maybe gives me a rationale again to go back and contact them because I have a similar circumstance, or I'd love to find out what solutions they use to solve this problem. Ultimately, it's also about collaboration. So we have multiple 27 different types of planning modules in Activator Plan. And what you can do is collaborate internally, but you can also collaborate with other cities. So our Smart Cities Council, ANZ, Australia, New Zealand, will be leading a collaboration around digital twins starting in the spring. So now we'll start talking about the application itself. There are 26 non-scored, non-text answers, multiple choice. I'll review them with you. There are 3 non-scored text questions where we ask you to list supporting organizations because it's important both internally and externally. What organizations are supporting, it could be local nonprofits, a military base, a university. If you're a county or province or state, it could be multiple cities in your jurisdiction. It may be an organization at the national level that's supporting you. Then we start with the scoring on the inputting of projects. You can put in as many projects as you want, and they'll get transferred to Activator Plan where you can start working on them. We ask for top-line project information on 13 fields. We don't want any confidential information, and it's basic information that would allow us to identify what type of project and do some aggregation and sorting. Finally, there are 3 scored text answers, and these are really important. And I think it explains our Cities Helping Cities philosophy. We want to know how the projects impact your city. Are they going to make a difference? I've seen many projects that are called innovative projects, but there's no purpose behind them to meet a city need, and there's no key performance indicators. So we want to understand how these projects are actually going to make a difference. The second thing we want to understand, and again, this is equally important, is the project replicable? So are you using a type of technology or possibly a type of process like Agile, or possibly a new type of financing process, maybe PPP, public-private partnership, or some other form of financing that you could replicate in your city, thus scaling the projects and speeding up livability, workability, and sustainability? These are important questions if cities are going to become smart. And then finally, how can other cities learn from your projects? Again, this is important. We want to know, are you willing to help other cities by sharing your project roadmaps? We take out any confidential or what you would call localized information and normalize them so that other cities could use them, because our ultimate goal is to have a library of replicable roadmaps that any city in the world could use, and we want those to be created by cities themselves. So now I'm just going to do a quick journey through the questions. So this is the first screen you'll see. Let me take you to the first screen you'll see as you start your journey through Activator. As you can see, there are different areas. You'll have access to each of these at different times. But to get access to Plan and Exchange, you need to start with Discover. So you'll go to Activator Discover. You'll see question sets up here. Right now, there's only one question set. Later on, there will be multiple question sets because maybe there'll be multiple challenges that you could participate in. You'll see throughout the process videos that tell you how to do something. And then you'll also see a dashboard where my cursor is that will show you your progress. So you start here with your question set, and answers are saved, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to, this is all the information on this first page is information that we've published in many different places. What you do want to know is that you have 2 key on the right-hand side in this big box. You have 2 key types of sessions. One is called sections, and that allows you to navigate between the different sections by just clicking on them. So if you want to look at the questions before you start answering them, you can just go through and look at them. And as you see, you can export also. So you could export the question set and then figure out how you want to answer them before you come back. On the right-hand side under the dashboard, it tells you your progress. It tells you how many sections you've gone through, how many questions you've answered, and ultimately you can do a detailed analysis of your application. The idea here, though, is to make navigation easy. So just going back to the top, again, if you hit the link, if you hit the title, that'll take you. Now, what I want to show you is what we talk about when we talk about sharing knowledge and learning through the process. So you'll answer some questions. Anytime you see a blue bar, that tells you that there's a knowledge asset that you can use. And what we've done is we've included, so right here under this question about a citywide smart cities framework, we're accessing the ISO Smart City Standard. I'll show you some others as we go through. We ask questions about resiliency, sustainability, governance. Now here's an important one. We think resiliency is a key issue going into 2020. So what we've done is we've asked you about resiliency, but we've also given you access to the 100 Resilient City framework, because this will show you what resiliency means to cities and experts that have actually worked on this, and it'll give you some guidance on how you want to answer your questions. Another thing we've done is we focused on sustainability. So we ask questions about UN sustainability goals, we link to them. We also ask about accountability and also net carbon cities by 2020 and point you in the direction of some applicable regulations. Another thing we've done is we sort of want to know where you're going with your planned tech. So a previous winner, the state of Virginia, where I live, actually has some very good definitions and resources around cloud computing. So we've accessed those so that you can see them. A city that is really taking the lead on, a country, digital twins, is Great Britain. A city that is taking the lead on blockchain is Dubai. So I'll actually link here and show you that you go to Smart Dubai, and you actually can see their resources, as you can see. So you can see their resources and you can download them. Another city that's gone and done a lot of work is in the area of AI, artificial intelligence, is Singapore. So again, you link through and you can see the assets and access them. So this is all part of a process of educating you as to what the questions are about. And even if you never hit the submit button, our attitude is you've learned something in the process. Here are the list of questions about supporting organizations. And then here are the 3 text questions we have, as I've said. The first one is about how the projects impact your city. The second is about how the projects can scale with a new process, an innovative process. And then finally, the last question is about helping other cities globally. Are you willing to let your projects be shared? Are there other things that you could do that would help cities? The key thing to remember is that by March 16th, you want to hit the submit button. The submit button is up in the right corner next to the export, but that's what you want to do before March 16th. Going back to our presentation. Make sure you review the videos. We've put a lot of videos throughout the application so that you can get answers to different, so you can cut the amount of time that you spend answering the questions. So what about data usage? You know, today, many people are concerned, rightly so, about using data. So we want to make it really clear that the city project planning information that you put in, you decide what you share. You can actually plan your projects in Activator at no cost and never share any of the top line information with any other city in the world. You can do that. That's not a problem. We would discourage you, and we would suggest that if you want to be part of this community of cities helping cities, that you should publish the top line metadata. We never share personal information. You saw that one dialog box where you could email somebody in a city, a project owner. You'll never see the email because it goes through our system. You'll connect with that person. They'll make a decision about whether they want to talk to you or not. If they say yes, they'll reach out to you, and then you'll carry on that communication in your own private communication channels, be it email, social media, or phone call. Now, our goal with Cities Helping Cities is to gather data so that we can do aggregated and anonymized reporting, trend reporting, analytics, so that we can share that back with the community. Now, as a caveat to this, if you do want to participate in the Readiness Challenge and be a finalist or a winner, you do have to agree that we can share the top level data about projects and we can share application information. So again, you don't have to hit the submit button to get access to Activator. We do encourage you to do so. And once you get into Activator Plan, you don't have to share your planning information. But again, we encourage you to do so. So what are the key dates for the Spring Challenge? No later than March 16th, you want to hit the submit button. March 24th, finalists will be announced. April 21st and 22nd, finalists will present projects at Smart Cities Week San Diego. April 22nd, the winners will be announced. We basically have a 3-phase scoring system. Your application will be scored by a global panel of judges. Your projects will be scored by a separate global panel of judges. Those scores will be combined with the audience score at Smart Cities Week, sort of a public scoring. So you'll have private scoring and public scoring. We'll aggregate the results from each phase and we'll announce the winners at the conference on April 22nd. We want to make it clear that if you open an account now, you could actually choose not to participate in the Spring Challenge, but you could choose maybe to participate in the Winter Challenge, this fall round, with the winners announced at Smart Cities Week, Washington, D.C. We also have upcoming states and other sponsorships, so there'll be challenges within challenges. We're trying to work with a couple of states so that smaller communities could actually receive a prize or an award or get recognition, and it would be sponsored by the state itself. So we're working in that process so that throughout this whole phasing where you do the application and then do the planning, you may find yourself eligible for multiple awards through the process. The idea is that this is continuous and that there's reasons for you to continue to participate, not only in terms of helping other cities, but also potentially awards, prizes, workshops, and eventually financing. So there'll be additional resources when you get the copy of this PowerPoint. You'll see that there'll be Activator Discover application. There'll be a link to the video explaining how to answer the questions. The same thing with how to use Plan. But you'll also find in Plan that there are multiple templates. So we do have templates about how to do particular types of projects. And then finalists will have online meetings so that we can help them improve their planning process. There's support throughout the world. ASEAN, Australia, New Zealand, India. If you're a WeGo, one of the 150 cities that belong to WeGo, then you could get support from WeGo directly. But we're supporting every different city wherever it's located. And then there's Activator technical customer support as needed. So what are the benefits? We've sort of been through this already. I think we've spent about half an hour. And if you don't see the benefits of participating by using Activator Discover, Activator Plan, and Activator Exchange, then obviously we should have a conversation because I think there are many benefits there. But you get, as an applicant, you get free use of Activator, you get knowledge sharing, collaborative planning, and you'll get the analytics and trend reports. If you become a finalist, you get travel scholarships. We'll review your projects with you. And if you agree, we'll use your projects to educate other cities. The winners will get customized capacity development. We've done workshops in the past. We've also done roadmaps. And what we found that every city is in a different place in their journey. So part of the process is actually figuring out what is the best capacity development trigger or lever to use within that ecosystem. We will have introductions to financing opportunities. That's a key aspect of what we're doing with Activator. And again, if you agree, your projects will be used to educate other cities. You'll get attribution. It could be, I live in the city of Reston, Virginia. It could be the Reston Smart Streetlight Project. And then every city in the world may use that to help themselves accelerate their smart streetlight planning. So you can participate again and again. If you're a finalist, doesn't mean that you can't take your project and again submit it for the next round or the next sponsorship or the next challenge. So please remember, we need to cross the finish line together. This idea that it's a race and that it's your city competing against my city is antithetical to us making the globe livable, workable, and sustainable one city at a time. Secondly, we've really scaled this down based on our experience so that it only takes you about 3 hours to join this global community. And finally, this is about cities helping cities.